All right, boys, still trying to beat us, eyes.
Oh, blimey, look at
that.
Fucking hell, it's a good job we didn't sit and slag you off when you sat in the background.
He said he's still trying to beat us, beating their podcast.
He's hoping for a mention, but the podcast. Hello and welcome to today's episode of The Rest is Football with Alan Shearer, Micah Richards and me, Gary Lineker. It's been a cracking weekend of domestic football. Loads to discuss then, chaps. Let's start at Anfield, where, Micah, you've been today and you've obviously just come out and you're in the back of your disco car again.
He's not in an aquarium this week. He looks as if he's in space or something.
Because my punditry was out of this world today. That's why.
We'll be the judge of that.
How was it, Micah? Do you enjoy it? There's always a great atmosphere at Anfield.
I always feel like a broken record I'm talking about Anfield, but the atmosphere was absolutely superb. I thought Liverpool approached the game really well. I think there was really balance in the way they were setting up the attacks. But I also thought Chelsea were outstanding. Just at times didn't have that final touch. I mean, Kelleher didn't have many saves to make, but they got to like the final third, and it's sort of like the run out of creativity. I thought Cole Palmer was really quiet in the game.
Yeah, was, yeah.
Curtis Jones did a really good job on sort of man marking him at times, but the game as a whole, I thought it was really high quality. I think Maresca's tactics were brilliant. I love the way Chelsea were trying to sort of build up with like a 3 at the back, 2 in midfield, then the 4 across. If you looked at Gusto's position, he was playing like a number 10 at times, and then Jackson up front. So in terms of quality, it's one of my favourite games in the league this season.
How good was he, by the way, Curtis Jones?
I was asking Daniel, because Daniel Sturridge was on the box today, how good he is. And he said he's always had that technical ability. He's had that confidence. He sort of said that he thought Klopp used him more just as a worker and a runner to press, so you didn't really get to see the quality he has on the ball. But today he showed exactly the player he is. I thought he was outstanding.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, because we kind of disagreed a little bit on our group chat about the penalty that was overturned.
Yeah.
You two thought they shouldn't have overturned it, right?
We were told about the high bar and all of that. And we also were told that sometimes winning the ball or getting a touch to the ball is not necessarily enough. If you wipe the player out, then also that can be deemed as a foul or as a penalty. And that's what I thought it was. And I thought once the referee had given it, then it was one of those where he was never going to overturn it. And I was really surprised he did.
On this one, I have to agree with Alan in terms of it wasn't a howler.
No, I agree it wasn't a howler. It wasn't a howler.
Exactly. So I was sort of on the fence a little bit because there were a couple of angles. The second angle basically showed him winning the ball and then Curtis Jones going over the top of him. So I would say that's okay. But also, he's took the man out. So is it a foul? Is it not a foul? I think it was split opinion on it, and if it's going to split an opinion, you stick with the referee's decision.
Yeah, I think we've heard that so many times, the referee's call, the new phrase we've had. Yet the referee's call was a penalty, so to overturn it, it has to be a horrendous error. And I didn't think it was.
As soon as I saw it, I thought, that's not a penalty. And when I saw the replay, I thought, he's got there first, and it's a 50-50, and he's got there first. And if you're going at pace at each other, it's inevitable that you'll collide. And but anyway, it didn't make any difference to the result in the end. Obviously, I mean, Liverpool are going well, aren't they? I mean, what a good job that Jurgen Klopp has done. That he's left the club in a position that a new manager can come in and slightly change things in the terms of the way they play. But they've got such a good group of players. He's left them in a really good state. Now, you could argue, looking back at a club like Manchester United, when after they'd lost Ferguson, the club wasn't in a good state. Lots of the players were reaching the end of their careers and stuff. So it was very different. And also you could probably say the same about Wenger's tenure at Arsenal. So it took them time. But he's come in, and all credit to him because he's done a really good job. And you've not heard any whisperings of discontent within the dressing room or anything like that. So they clearly respect him. But I think it's a really good sign of the way that the club was left by Jurgen Klopp. I don't know whether you agree or not.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. He left the club in a really good state, but that doesn't take anything away from the job that Arne Slot's done in terms of... You're right, what you said in terms of he's changed it slightly, a bit of a more patient build-up perhaps. But in terms of improving players, and we've talked about the performance of Curtis Jones today, we've already spoken several times about the performances of Gravenberch this season, particularly when they went in heavy to try and get Zubimendi, which that didn't work out for whatever reason. But that hasn't affected them. He's also being asked about Trent, Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk in terms of their contract situation. So for him to have done all of those things and be top of the league and playing like they are, going well in the Champions League, he's had a magnificent start to life at Liverpool.
With that, those three players, I mean, time's ticking, isn't it? You know, we're up to the middle of October now. With a lot of rumours about Trent Alexander-Arnold and Real Madrid now. And Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk have both turned, you know, they're in their 30s. So it could be a time where, you know, it could be a drastic change at Liverpool.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a healthy situation to be in. But in fairness to all those three individuals, it's not affecting their performances at all.
Not at all.
I mean,
not
they've all three of them, actually. I mean... Salah got his goal. Trent again, I thought it was put in a really good. As in Virgil again, I thought he was superb. So it's not affecting them at all, and that has to be a credit also to the manager to get them out there and perform despite them having all this chat around.
Well, we did lose you there for a minute, Micah, but when we did, we were just talking about, you know, the transition period from Klopp to Slot has been so smooth, and Slot's done a brilliant job.
Well, it's not been as smooth as my journey in this car. Basically, we had a power cut. We've had a power cut in here.
We wondered where you'd gone, but the lights have come back on. The disco lights are back on. We can see them now in the background there, Micah.
Oh, wicked. But yeah, in terms of Slot and what basically he's done, I think it's been quite remarkable. In terms of the position mainly of Gravenberch, he's sort of normally a number 8, but for him to fill that role in the number 6 and do it so efficiently has been really good. I like the way they're a little bit more patient in their build-up. Their defensive record is the best in the Premier League this season, and they're just seeing a lot more balance. And I know that's ridiculous to say for a Liverpool team that was so exciting. So, you know, from back to front, I've gone again. The lights have...
Yeah. You've gone. Oh, there you are. We can just about make you out there.
In terms of what Klopp did for Liverpool was unbelievable. You know, 3 Champions League final, winning the league, going so close with Man City on numerous occasions. But I dare say defensively they look in better shape, and I think that will then give them a better chance of, you know, fighting for that title this season.
They've only conceded 3 goals.
It's remarkable, but it's good to see it play out. We saw sort of Trent going into midfield at times, but they really do it differently in terms of their timing. They don't take as much risk, and you can see that with, you know, only conceding 3 goals.
Yeah, it's definitely not quite as gung-ho, say.
Heavy metal,
you know,
they call it, didn't they?
Heavy metal is what he called it, wasn't it? Yeah, the Gegenpressing and all that kind of stuff. It is a change. So it also speaks volumes of the players to be able to adjust slightly. It doesn't have the ability of the players to do that, Alan.
No, I agree. I mean, that just goes to show how great a job he's done. As I said earlier, I mean, they're top of the league, going well in the Champions League. They've had one little blip against Forest at home. Fine, they got the way they replied to that was really impressive. And that was a big test for them today against a Chelsea team that have been going well, that pose plenty of threats, and they've come out on top. So yeah, another really good weekend for Slot and for Liverpool.
Can they challenge, guys? What do you think? Can they challenge for the league this season?
Yeah, definitely.
I think they can. Yeah, I think they're 3 points clear. I think if you look at both Arsenal and Manchester City. We'll come to the Manchester City game in just a second, but they've got their injury problems, haven't they? I mean, Saka doesn't look too serious. Looks like he just missed out, but he'll be back soon. But Odegaard, they've missed a little bit. Saliba will be suspended for the game against Liverpool, which is next up, and Man City have lost Rodri for the season. So I mean, that it's huge loss. They don't look quite the same without Rodri as. That you don't lose football matches with Rodri. Not that they're losing matches at the moment, but it was a vital win for them today. But they have to have a chance. They're in the running. And I don't think prior to the season, given Klopp's departure, that you really thought realistically that would be a possibility. But given the start and given the squad that they've got, you'd have to make them genuine contenders, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think they're definitely, they're without doubt. I mean, I thought, I can only speak for myself, I thought it would be between Arsenal and City, but I've seen enough in Liverpool already this season, and if they can avoid injuries and keep the majority of that squad fit, they'll be challenging those two, definitely.
Yeah. Manchester City left it slightly late, didn't they? I felt for Wolves, actually. I mean, John, one of our producers, he's gutted. He's gutted today because that would have been a big point against Manchester City, particularly how tough a start that they've had to this campaign. But it's amazing how the great teams find a way, don't they? And it was a corner. Obviously, there was another VAR thing, wasn't there, when they were looking at the offside? I mean, I couldn't see it for a second. I mean, he was stood on the goalkeeper and there was a little bit of, he just leant into him a little bit, but he got himself out of the way of his vision and moved him before Stones headed the ball. So I know, Micah, you weren't quite sure about that, which surprised me given your Manchester City connections.
No, I always try to be balanced. I think, you have to be. I think the right decision was made. I do, but I think the goalkeeper has changed his position because of the work of Bernardo Silva. So he's going to be set, but he's not set, if you understand what I mean. I think the call was he offside or not? Obviously, you can't be offside from the corner. Then was he impeding the goalkeeper? And by the time John Stone headed it, he wasn't. But the little moment before sort of...
But you are allowed to stand. You are allowed to, stand next to the goalkeeper.
You are allowed, but it did alter the goalkeeper's position. And I was just trying to give it from a Wolves point of view why they may have felt aggrieved in that situation.
You can only be offside once John Stones has headed the ball. Mm-hmm. So if he didn't think it was a foul beforehand, which obviously clearly didn't, then that sort of becomes irrelevant. Once John's headed it, then he's not offside and not affecting the goalkeeper. So it was the right decision.
It's a couple of vital late goals he's got, John Stones, isn't it?
Unbelievable, yeah.
Already,
I do feel a bit for Gary O'Neill and Wolves because they scored a great goal. I mean, the way they passed it out from the back and then they whipped it in and they get the goal and the crowd's up and then they've got to defend and the keeper makes some incredible saves. And
is he in your team of the week?
He is. I put him in there, for those 4 or 5 brilliant saves. Yeah. I do feel a bit for Gary O'Neill, but football is cruel at times. You know that.
They played very similar tactics, didn't they, to the way that Fulham played against Manchester City, I thought. Sitting deep but counter with real pace. Yeah,
they did exactly that, exactly how the game was supposed to go. I thought from Wolves' point of view, they did alter their back. They sort of went with a back 5, didn't they?
Yeah.
Rather than a back 4. Semedo and Aït-Nouri sort of playing the wing-backs, sitting real deep in that low block. And then when they really went all together. But unfortunately, when you're having a bit of bad luck, it just keeps pouring, doesn't it? It just keeps coming. And I think he is a good manager. Yeah. I feel as though today showed that the players are still buying into what he's trying to do. They just need the luck to turn now.
They've played all the big boys, haven't they?
Yeah, they've had a tough start, yeah.
I mean, their opening fixtures were really tough. I still think Wolves will be... I think they'll be okay. I mean, not everybody does, but...
I hope they stick with him.
So do I. I think he deserves it. I think he's really got something as a coach. We'll be having a quick break shortly, but before that, it's time for a brand new segment of the show. Raise Your Guinness Glass, brought to you by our friends at Guinness, official beer of the Premier League. Obviously, nothing beats the moment when the beautiful game meets the beautiful pint. So every month we'll be celebrating an unforgettable Premier League moment that's worth raising a pint to. So while we pour these beautiful pints of Guinness and let them settle, that is important, isn't it, Alan? I've been listening to you.
Here.
We can discuss the standout moment from October. So, right, let's pour the pint.
Here we go. Come on, boys. I'll show you how to do it. Here you go. Come on. Get it to the top of the harp there. And
yeah.
Where's mine?
Sorry, Micah, we couldn't get you onto your car. But
Well, to Anfield.
Top of the
I mean,
harp.
there's Guinness in
There.
guys, I don't know whether you can make that out or not on there. Can you see the Guinness sign there and just have a little look?
Yeah.
Can you see what's underneath that? Can you see what's on the glass underneath that?
Alan? Does that say Alan Shearer?
Yes,
What,
Micah!
you got your name on it?
You got the name on the glass.
Personalised glass.
Wait. You've got your own glass.
He's got preferential treatment.
They look after the big hitters. You see, they look after the big hitters.
All right, well, let's talk about the game and the moment that we're doing. We've actually picked out Brentford 5, Wolves 3, because it was such a crazy game. And it was 4-2 at half-time, and Brentford did what they've done in most games this season and scored before 2 minutes was up.
Don't think anyone expected that this game was going to produce that many goals. And Brentford, I think, didn't they get 4 goals in the first half as well? So it was
I just
an
said
amazing
that.
game.
Are you not listening to me?
Yeah, superb. Yeah. I'm too busy concentrating on my Guinness.
Yours
It's a
is
little
higher
low,
than
though,
mine.
Al. It's a little low. I don't
No,
think
it's
you've,
ready. Are we ready to go?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, come on. Here we go.
so you
Hang
saved
on,
that
get
little
it out,
top for
get
the
the-
end. Oh, I see.
Yes, Micah.
that's
Look.
it. There you go. Is that it,
Marvelous
Al?
behaviour.
Is that it? How's that?
Yes, guys, I'm
Looks
impressed.
all right,
I'm
doesn't
impressed.
it? Have a little sip before we move
I'm
on.
impressed.
Yeah, but why have Brentford managed to score so many early goals, Micah?
Because it's something that they work on. I spoke to Thomas Frank on multiple occasions, and he says they start quick and just try to cause chaos, and all the players go. So it's something that they've worked on. It's not luck. And it's just brilliant. We worked him at the Euros, and he said they was going to play good attacking football, and he has basically done that this season. Long may it continue, because it was a great moment.
You've got to split the G, guys. And that's exactly what I've just done. Look, on the Guinness, on your pint
Split
there.
the G?
You've got to 3 or 4 sips, splitting the G, guys. That's what it's called.
Splitting the G!
Yes, just on the G. You've just got to get it
One
in
more
between
sip, I
the
think.
G, splitting the G.
How's that? I think
Have you
I've
done
split
it?
the G. I think so, yeah. I've split
Love
the
it.
G.
Well done, guys.
It's
Love
been
it.
a lifelong ambition to split the G. And that's it for the first edition of Raise Your Guinness Glass, brought to you by Guinness, official beer of the Premier League. Cheers, all.
Cheers.
Cheers. Anyway, Micah, you keep going in and out. Will the car actually work to get you home? That's what we're
I'm
worried
not
about.
sure. I'm not sure it will, if I'm being totally honest.
We wish you well and hope you get your aquarium back up and running soon.
Do you drive past the Weatherby Whaler on the way home?
Yes, I do. I used to go to school in Weatherby. I was there every Friday.
Stop off and get some fish and chips then.
Hang on a minute, Mikey. You only went to school one day a week. That explains a lot.
Can't you tell?
Well, safe travels, Micah. Leave Alan and myself to do the second half and Saturday's games because I think you've had a long enough day. So thanks for joining us.
He's available. Are you sure you're right for the second half, Alan?
Listen to him. Look, hang on. We'll cover for you. Don't worry.
Well, hold on. You know what? I am a little bit disappointed. I didn't get an invite for the Longstaff podcast. Where was that?
Yeah, you must have done. It was on the group chat when we were going to do it and all that. Well,
Oh, is that when I was having my little detox?
I think maybe it was. Maybe.
Were you having a pedicure or something like that, were you? I don't know, what?
I'm a modern day man, Alan. You should learn a bit.
Yeah. Great stuff. Well, safe travels, Micah. Just Alan Shearer and me, Gary Lineker now. We've let Micah go home. He's had a long day and we know he can't work too hard, don't we, Al?
Oh, don't we? My heart bleeds for Micah, don't you? I mean, he works so hard.
Thoughts are with him at this difficult time. Probably the big story of the day was, of course, Arsenal being defeated for the first time this season by Bournemouth, which was a bit of an upset. Arsenal, one or two key players missing, notably Odegaard, who's been out for a while, and Saka as well. Cause for concern, do you think at all? I don't know. You're going to get the odd bad day, aren't you?
No, I don't think so. No time to panic. It was a poor performance, poor result. I thought Bournemouth were absolutely outstanding, weren't they? I mean, they went out with a game plan and they were impressive and everything that they did, and they were worthy winners. And I know the sending off was a big turning point in the game, but even in the 30 minutes or 25 minutes, whatever it was beforehand, I thought Arsenal were a little bit flat, which I suppose is understandable with coming back from international break. You're always going to get that, I think, and there was so many teams similar to that this weekend as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Iraola's done, since he's been there, I think he had a tough start, didn't he?
Yeah.
They struggled to get any results for quite a while, didn't win for a while. But then they started to really improve, in the second half of the season, last season. Then they've lost Solanke, of course, obviously replaced him. But he's got a way of playing. It's attacking. They don't just sit, do they, and try and counter-attack. They try and play the high press when they can. I think he's got a real tactical nous, don't you?
No, I think he's doing a wonderful job. I think he's set his stall out. We know what his style of play is, and I think their recruitment's been really good as well. I think we're all slightly surprised, weren't we, when he sort of got the job in the first place, because there was a few of us that didn't agree with the sacking of Gary O'Neill. But then he came in and, as you said, had a bit of a slow start, but there was no panic there. And he's got them playing some really good football, a really good outfit. And even when they're beaten in games, they give a good fist of it, So, he's doing a really, really good job.
Let's talk about the sending off. And I think Arsenal fans are a little bit unhappy with it, but obviously they, we all see things through tinted glasses when it's our own side. But I think with that one, he was definitely going to be through on goal, wasn't he? He was definitely going to be a goal-scoring opportunity. Sometimes when they're that far away from the actual goal, they don't tend to send players off. But I think with this one, Ben White was on the far side of the pitch, but he was significantly further away. And I think he would have been through one-on-one, wouldn't he? Although if Saliba had just kept on his feet, not fouled him and tracked him back, I think, it would have given him a lot to do. I suppose at the time he's just thinking, it's a bit of a nudge. There's probably a defender behind me. I'm not going to get sent off. But I suppose if he could see things again, he would just left him to it. Because even if he goes through and scores, you'd fancy Arsenal with 11 men rather than, being 0-0 against 10 men.
Yeah, totally agree. I think, there's no doubt it's a foul, and it's a deliberate foul. He knows exactly what he's doing, but we've all sort of been there in the heat of the moment, and it's easy to say, well, he shouldn't have done it. And you're absolutely right. Where when he looks at it, you think, I shouldn't have made contact. I should have just let him go. And with his pace, with his know-how, with his experience, he might have got back anyway. Keeper might have saved it. Evan Nielsen might have missed that opportunity. So many things that could have happened. The one thing I don't think would have happened would have been Ben White getting back there. I think it was a definite goal-scoring opportunity. The keeper was on the retreat. He was on his way back because he knew he wasn't getting to the ball, which tells its own story. And I know he still had a way to go, but no one can tell me that that wasn't going to be a really, really good goal-scoring opportunity. Therefore, he fouled him, and he had to show a red card, albeit the referee gave a yellow to begin with and was told to go to the screen, then by VAR, and they got there in the end with the right decision, but that's what it was. It was the right decision. It was a right red card. And I mean, it was that sort of doubled up on it being a really bad day for Arsenal in terms of the result, the performance. He also misses the game against Liverpool next weekend because of it as well. So when you say in hindsight or looking back, there's no doubt that he will next time probably let him go. And if he has to score, then he scores. And that probably wouldn't have been a huge problem for Arsenal.
Arteta didn't really complain either, did he?
Nah, it was the right decision, Gary.
It was. It's become a bit of a problem for Arsenal, hasn't it? That's the third red card this season. They're way ahead of everybody else. I think we showed a graphic last night since, 2019? They're comfortably clear in terms of red cards. Is that just coincidence? Is it a disciplinary problem? When
you look at the three this season, when you look at Declan Rice kicking the ball away, I mean, as stupid and harsh as it is, I mean, you can't do it. I mean, people will argue it wasn't a red card.
Yeah, then, I would argue that.
Yeah, maybe. Then Trossard does it not so long after that Rice has done it, so that is stupid. And then I don't think you can have any complaints with that yesterday. And Arteta has said himself after the game, didn't he? They are not going to win the title if they continue to get red cards, because as it's just too tough in our league, in the Premier League, to be, no matter how good you are, to go in against 11v10 for an hour. It's so difficult, and it's already proved, isn't it? They've got the 3 times it's happened this season, they've only taken 2 points from 9. So that tells you how hard it's going to be. So they have to cut down on that, otherwise they ain't going to win the league.
How do you do that though? I mean, like you said before, it's in the heat of the moment, things happen. You don't look at Arsenal and think they're a team that just goes around like kicking people or they're overly aggressive. People will say that on the sidelines they've got a manager that he's quite volatile. He's let's say enthusiastic, jumps up and down. I don't buy into that particularly, because I think a lot of managers are like that. I just think it's perhaps one of those things. I don't know.
Yeah, but they've got an aggression about them, which is great, and I love that. And I think any team that's going to have to go in head to head against City, you've got to have a bit about you. And they are spiky at times, which is fine, and I get that. And they do play on the edge. And you will get red cards now and again, but you can't afford to have, 8 games you've had, and they've had 3 already. They can't afford many more this season. I think they had 2 in the whole of last season, and 3 already this season. And as I said, that can't continue. That has to stop, whether you think that's slightly harsh or whatever. But certainly 2 out of the 3 this season up to now have been the correct decisions.
Clever free kick Bournemouth scored from, wasn't it? We're seeing a lot more imagination, aren't we? Obviously, clubs are bringing in free kick specialists or set piece.
It was a corner,
I should say. It was a corner, but it was cleverly worked, wasn't it? Brilliant. And we've seen a few of those now with they've all got their kind of expert coaches, so they probably spend all week like imagining certain scenarios. It must give them a real thrill, and you can see it on the sidelines when one comes off. I mean, it was a beauty, though.
I said it last night, didn't I, on Match of the Day, when I said Arsenal got Arsenaled in terms of their set pieces. We've seen so many times this season already with Arsenal how brilliant they are at set pieces, how each man has a job to do in terms of he blocks him, in the hope that someone else is freed up in the space. But Bournemouth did exactly to Arsenal what Arsenal have been doing for a long time now in terms of trying to get their set pieces perfect. And that was a brilliant one, and it worked to perfection and ultimately changed the game for Bournemouth. So that goes to show you how important they are.
Yeah. It's quite fascinating, I think, to watch some of these elaborate moves in some ways, aren't they? It wasn't quite like that in our day. Although when I played for Terry Venables, he was quite... he was pretty innovative and imaginative in some of the things. I remember we were playing, but when I played for Barcelona and Terry was the coach, we spent an entire week in defensive corners with him saying, right, let's leave 5 players at the top of the pitch and see what they do then. And I was thinking that yesterday when I see all these free kick and corners and various efforts and planned things. And I thought, what would happen if nowadays, if the defensive team just said, right, we'll leave 5 at the pitch, because you couldn't just leave them there, could you? So your plan would go out the window. And Terry, it's funny, we practiced it every day, and in the end, we didn't actually do it in the game. We never did. Because if it went wrong, you'd look bloody foolish. But
well, the difference now is, Gary, is that they have a specific set-piece coach. Whereas when we were playing, certainly 15, 20, 30 years ago, that was the coach or the manager, as he was called then. That was the manager's job to come up with ideas for set pieces, both for defensively and attacking. And you're right. I mean, we spent hours on the training ground back in the late 90s in terms of working on set pieces with Terry Venables with England, or Ray Hartford with Blackburn when he was Kenny's assistant, even at Southampton with Chris Nichol. Bless him, who's no longer. We did all of those things, but that was the manager's job. Whereas now they've got that many staff. The
staff's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But that's their job to do that now. To find, I mean, we're talking about tiny percentages, aren't we? But those make the difference at elite level in any sport. Yeah. The tiny percentages make the difference between you being a huge success and just being good.
How many staff were around when we played? If you seriously, you'd have the manager, his assistant. Yeah. You'd probably have a separate reserve team coach and a youth team coach.
Kitman, physio, and a doctor.
Only latterly in my career did they have goalkeeping coaches. Yeah. I would say you'd have like you say, physio, a doctor, and that was about it. Yeah. Now. The staff is bigger than the squad, except for Chelsea, probably. Yeah. But they haven't got room. Yeah, it's amazing, they haven't got room for any
all
more.
All of those things we've spoken about came under the manager's remit in terms of he had to be in charge of all of those things,
including transfers, everything, the whole caboodle. Yeah. Let's move on to the Mighty Foxes. That was obviously a set piece that won.
I was wondering how long it was going to take.
98th minute.
You've had a good Saturday night and a Sunday, haven't you? You've enjoyed it.
I did. I thought we should have topped the show last night. I said to Rich, the editor, but I mean, but Arsenal. I understand why they did it, because editorially, Arsenal losing would be on the back pages. Leicester winning from 2 down won't be. But
I thought your ending to Match of the Day was superb last night. I thought it was one of your better ones last night.
Well, it was a bit of fun. It was one of those when I was talking it through with Rich, and it was one of those where I had to go for it fully, because you had to commit to it, but particularly the Fatal woohoo!
Buonanotte,
yeah, it was, it was a bit of fun, but that's 2 wins on the bounce. It's amazing what 2 wins consecutive does to you when you're in the bottom of the table, isn't it? It's jumped less, I think, about 13th or 14th now. 9 points from 8 games, which is more than respectable. And if you get anywhere near a point a game nowadays, I think you're going to stay up, aren't you? Because I think long gone is 40 points. It's needed. I think it's more like 34 now. But
just to prove a point in when we're talking here, in terms of in the afternoon when the teams were announced for Leicester, you were like, why is he not playing that for Tahoe? He was a great player. He's one of our best players. And then he came on and made a huge difference. And you were like, I fucking told you so. He should have been playing from the start. Me and my sons
maybe he would have done that if he played
is.
from the start. So I'll defend Steve Cooper on that. And he's obviously a lot closer to the team than I am. But I've watched him a lot. Yeah. I watched him last season when he was actually on loan last season. And I mean, the kids, I think he's really special. I mean, he can beat people. He's quick. He can take people on. He can cut inside and bend one in the top corner. He can go on the outside and cross the ball. He's a little bit like Saka in that way. I'm not going to say he's as good as Saka. Obviously, he's not yet. Yeah. But he's only 19. But he's also got incredible work ethic. He's got a lovely personality. He's a real character. Everyone at Leicester knows that. And it's one of those, because I was wanting Mavididi at the start, and I think when you've got Mavididi on one side, Vardy in the middle, Fatawa on the right, and Buonanotte kind of floating, that is a forward line. And Leicester have scored, I have to say, even though he's not always played. They have scored in every game. But I think the kid's going to be a really good player.
Well, you can only leave someone out for so long when they come on and put in a performance like that. So that's what he's got to keep on doing on it, right? We know what it's like, when the game's being
and he's
stretched.
young, and he's a Premier League, he's different, and it takes. And Steve Cooper said at the end of the game, and I must defend Steve on this, he said, we love him, we love this kid. I'm just trying to transition him from a Championship youngster to a Premier League player. So I get that, but oh gosh, so much ability.
Well, he's in my team of the week anyway. So
is he out?
He's in the team of the
week. That's good to hear. Yeah. That's good to hear.
He is.
What is your team of the week?
Well, I've got to wait, haven't I? I've got to see. There's another match. There's another match on night as you're listening to it now.
Anyone sneaking today, or you think they will?
Yeah, Curtis Jones got in there today, so he was outstanding.
Yeah, he was. He had a terrific game today. But we talked about that already.
Yeah.
I met Russell Martin. I had dinner with him actually not long ago, and I had to say I did feel for him yesterday.
Oh no, yeah.
As much as I could feel for someone that's playing against Leicester, but it's tough for them.
What about? Let's talk about the decision, by the way, that you got away with that. Pulling back of the Southampton player. It was Ayew. Was it Ayew? I think it was.
Pulling
pulling the defender back, Southampton.
Yeah, but he only pulled his shirt for about 4 or 5 seconds.
I mean, this is where I was like, this is where I find it difficult to understand what's going on, because about 90 seconds or 2 minutes after that, the decision that you got for the red card and the penalty and everything else that goes for you, because for them to say that he wasn't going to get to the ball and it wasn't going to impact, and I was thinking, well, he's got hold of him for 5 seconds. I mean, he's only a yard off the ball anyway when the ball comes in. So if he hadn't had hold of him, he's either going to get there before the keeper or at least challenge. So he was impacting on the play, which, I mean, I don't know. I just didn't understand it.
Well, I'm completely biased, obviously, towards Leicester, but I totally agree with you. Yeah. We say it as we see it. And I thought Leicester were very lucky with that one. And then I suppose to give a goal at the other end. Now, I know Vardy would definitely have tapped it in otherwise.
Yeah. Well, that was the right decision.
It was the right decision, but I agree with it. And obviously, I think it was 2-1 when that happened, wasn't it? The Ayew thing, it was just before. So, if they score the penalty, it's 3-1. It makes a huge difference. Yeah. I absolutely have some kind of sympathy for Russell Martin and his team and their fans.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was difficult, but it when you're near the bottom, it's because obviously the promoted teams, and this was a clash between two of the promoted sides. Those games become huge. Leicester's next 2 matches as well against Forest, obviously our local rivals, and then Ipswich as well. And we were looking at this. I was talking to 3 out of my 4 boys support Leicester, and we were talking. We said we've got this group of this bunch of 4 games.
What does the other one support?
George, isn't he? George has been very contrary. He supports Man United.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. He's the odd one out, George. Yeah. See,
It was funny that I'm going back to 2016 now, when Leicester won the league, because George had obviously had a lot on us over many years being a Man United fan, and he wasn't short in taking the piss out of us all the time, including when Des Lynam was presenting Match of the Day. We went to Filbert Street to watch Leicester versus Manchester United. And there was a young George and an even younger Harry, who's now our producer, obviously. Yeah. And we were at the game, and they cut us up in the images, and it was basically me and Harry with the heads down, and George was pointing up at our faces like this. It was quite amusing, but not for Harry and myself, because Man United were spanking us. In fact, Harry's found the still of it here. Here it is. If you can see that, I don't know whether you can see that. Put it up to the camera.
Oh, there we are. Look,
there you go. So then we rolled on. God knows how many years it was to Leicester winning the league, and Harry posted that picture saying who's laughing now, basically. So George is the United fan. The rest of us are long-suffering Leicester fans, but it was a great win for Leicester, nevertheless.
Yeah.
Let's go to Spurs. So I think it was a really important victory for them, wasn't it? Particularly going a goal down, because obviously Ange Postecoglou had been getting a little bit of stick. Tactically, Tottenham had, I suppose been caught out once or twice. I think it was the lowest points total at that stage of the season for quite some time. I always enjoy watching them play under Ange Postecoglou. I love his football, and ultimately, it's a sport of entertainment and should be enjoyable. And I love watching Tottenham's games. But this time, he actually made a tactical switch, didn't he, at half time that you did as your analysis last night, as we're recording this on Sunday night, obviously.
Yeah, it was a really impressive performance, particularly after going 1-0 down, after losing a couple of weeks ago to Brighton, when he himself said it was that defeat hurt him like no other. So then for him to make it was a huge call, big change in leaving or taking Maddison off at half-time, and was really angry, wasn't he? Because we showed the clip last night when he said to Papi Sarr, "Get ready, you're going on," just as he was walking down the tunnel to go to half-time to do his team talk, and sent him out to warm up to tell him he was coming on. You could tell how angry he was. But I thought it was the correct decision. It made a huge difference. They scored 3 goals in, 9 or 10 minutes. And he was vindicated in doing that. So we took a lot of flack for the way they were beaten at Brighton, for being 2 up and not protecting the game. Yet they were 1-1 at half-time yesterday, and he made a big change, a big call, and it worked perfectly for him. So, he without doubt would have a really good weekend.
Definitely. West Ham, by contrast, they're struggling, aren't they, under Lopetegui so far? Obviously, he was heavily backed in the summer as well. I don't know how many times last season we said, with the grumbles about David Moyes and be careful what you wish for, and that kind of thing. I mean, it's early days. It's early days for Lopetegui. We need to give him time, but they're kind of shipping in a few goals, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I mean, they do look iffy defensively. They had a good result 2 weeks ago against Ipswich, wasn't it, at home, where they scored 4. And they go 1-0 up, and you think, here we go. But yeah, it would be slightly concerning the way they shipped the goals, where one went in, you think, okay, it's not a disaster, but then another so soon after, thinking, okay, that would be a little bit of a concern. But they've backed him heavily in the summer, so they have to be a little bit patient with him.
Yeah, Kudus got sent off at the end. He probably could have got maybe 3 red cards in that incident. I mean, he pushed 2 people in the face and had a good kick at the guy on the ground.
What was interesting, though, the referee just gave, I think it was him and Van de Ven, both a yellow card each, and then was told by the VAR, I think you need to go and have a look at this, because, he booted him twice, he shoved him in the face, and then shoved Papi Sarr in the face, I think, as well, wasn't it? Which, you're right, he could have got 3 or 4 red cards in 10 seconds, but he may even get done again from the FA. I don't know whether they can do anything or not, but it was a moment or a minute of madness from him.
I think he lost his mind for a moment, completely lost the plot, and
he did
get carried away. Villa's impressive start continues, doesn't it? Talk about, he's an elite coach, isn't he? Emery. I really like him as well. His post-match interviews, I think he's quite refreshing.
He's got a good team.
He's got a good team. He's got good players in there. He's got a good way of playing. They could play a high press. They can play counter. They've got some, dynamic footballers in there. They've got a really good centre forward in Ollie Watkins, who's, scoring goals again after a slight. We all know as strikers, you go through little spells where you don't score. We were saying yesterday, weren't we, that, when Kane was injured, and we were talking in the office yesterday, saying, God, he must have been pissed off not getting a chance with England.
No, absolutely. They've got some really good options. Rodgers has had a great start. We already mentioned him once or twice already. on the pod this season. He got it was his effort at goal yesterday. Took the deflection, but he was brilliant in everything he did yesterday. Other than his finishing, the one thing that he perhaps has to do and improve on is his finishing, because he gets into so many good positions and has had so many chances. But yeah, they've got really good options. He's a great coach, and it's exciting times for Aston Villa fans, isn't it? I mean, you got that win against Bayern Munich at home in the Champions League. You're doing so well in the league. So yeah, really, really exciting times.
Definitely for Villa fans.
Yeah.
The Joachim Andersen sending off, did you agree with that one? It was a little. I mean, we've had kind of 3 of those this weekend, haven't we?
Yeah, it was.
It was.
I don't know. It was one of those where once he
gave it, they're not going to overturn it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah, it was one of those. Yeah.
A little bit unfortunate, I thought.
Yeah.
But there you go. We don't usually leave Manchester United till this late in the thing. I think that was an important victory. Now, I know he talked in the press quite a bit this week, Erik ten Hag, saying, and he had a go at the press and he had a go at the media saying, made up stories, fairy tales, telling lies, all this sort of stuff, saying we're all on the same page. I find that a little bit odd when we know that, obviously they were interviewing managers in the summer and stuff like that. But I suppose he's got to defend his corner. It's a difficult spell for them, but it was a much needed victory, that was, wasn't it? Huge
victory for him and for Manchester United, for the time being anyway. I don't know. I mean, there's so many things that they can improve on, but what they did do well yesterday were play well in forward positions. I mean, I highlighted it on Match of the Day with Garnacho, with Rashford and with Højlund. I thought those 3 of them, I thought they worked really well together. They created chances. They worked hard. They did really, really well yesterday, but they've got to keep that up. They were much the better team in the second half. Probably Brentford edged it in the first half, but they came out a different team in the second half, and they've got to keep that up. Otherwise, we're going to keep talking about him and his future and whether he's going to be the Man United manager or whether he agrees or disagrees with our opinion. That they are one of, if not the biggest football club in the world. And when they're sat in 14th position in the Premier League, then whether he likes it or not, we're all going to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, it's always a club we'll always talk about.
Yeah, because of the size of they are and the success that they've had. They're huge.
Yeah, and the fans will be frustrated.
I don't think we said anything different to what most of their fans would be saying. Is that they don't like them seeing themselves in the position that they're in the bottom half of the Premier League. They want to be challenging for trophies. They want to be in Champions League football. They don't want to see themselves where they are and having the disappointing performances. So we haven't said, or the press haven't said anything different to what most Man United fans have been saying, because I know they've won the 2 trophies, but in terms of the league position, which he's going to be judged upon, they've been miles off it.
Do you know they're playing the Europa League this week?
Go on.
Certain Fenerbahce managed by Jose Mourinho.
Okay, yeah. Where's it at?
It's in Turkey.
It's
in Turkey.
Big game.
Oh, it's a big one. I think Jose will definitely want to win that one, won't he?
He'll be wound up.
Bit of revenge.
He'll be wound up.
It's another tough trip because they've also struggled a little bit in Europe as well, haven't they?
No, absolutely. Another big game, yeah.
Do you want to talk about Newcastle?
Not really, but I suppose we're going to have to.
I was thinking maybe we'll swerve them because, perhaps, losing at home is... I mean, what do you make of the start of the season? I mean, you've talked and you said, well, it seems a little bit flat. They're not quite the energy, and it seems to be persisting. But, I mean, results-wise, they're not in any kind of crisis or anything like that. But, I mean, that was a big blow yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think certainly for half an hour, it's maybe as good as they've played all season. And it might have been different if they put that chance that Isak had, because 90 seconds later, the Welbeck puts his chance away. And you know what it's like, goals change games. But anyway, he didn't put it in. And then Brighton went on there and hung on and got a great result. But, Newcastle have been really poor in forward positions, which, I mean, one of the reasons why they wanted to bring another forward in, right-sided forward, was because of that. but Wilson hasn't played. Isak's been injured. Gordon's had to play centre forward, missed the penalty at Everton, probably affected his confidence because he missed another couple of big chances.
You were saying in the office yesterday, well, and we were chatting about this, that you feel they didn't really back Eddie Howe properly in the summer.
Yeah, well, I just look at where Newcastle are Newcastle any better this season than they were, 18 months ago. And with the transfer windows they've had behind them. And I would say probably not. And I just feel as if that they probably haven't backed the manager as good as they should have. After what he's done for Newcastle and achieved. And I get the PSR and the financial laws and rules, whatever you want to call them. But there was money in the pot this summer because they bid 60 or 65.
Do you think perhaps, Alan, I'm not backing this up with anything, but because of the limitations of the PSR guides and rules, that they might have lost interest a little bit. The owners, they might think, well, there's not much we can do. I don't know. I'm just thinking out
No,
loud.
I don't. I think the turnover of personnel in the summer hasn't helped with the new
at the top of the club.
At the top of the club with Amanda and Mehrdad leaving, new director of football coming in with Dan Ashworth leaving whenever he left. I just don't think that has helped at all. I just think they've let the coach or the manager down in the last transfer window. I don't think they've helped them at all. From where they were last season to where they are now, and I know they've certainly not been helped by serious injuries, particularly to Sven Botman. But I don't think they're a better team now with a transfer window or two behind them than they were 18 months ago. And that is a slight concern.
Yeah. Brighton are continuing to perform really well. I mean, that's a tough place to go and win. Newcastle always has been, particularly in recent times under Eddie Howe. They've been really strong at home. But he's, what a good start he's had.
Yeah, he's had a really good start, yeah. The result against Tottenham a couple of weeks ago was a great result. For them to come to St James's, the first half I thought Newcastle were the better team. But in fairness to them, they hung in there and they dug deep. And they have obviously got a good, really, really good team spirit there. You can see that in the second half. And in Danny Welbeck, they've got a guy who is born again in terms of him scoring goals. And I hope he's okay because he got stretchered off. We don't know the extent of his injury.
Got a bang in the back, it looked like, didn't it?
It did, yeah. He's scoring goals again and looking really good, Danny Welbeck. And so we hope he's okay.
We certainly do. One last thing, Alan, just while we're on Newcastle and that game. It came to light through Eddie Howe. He said that he was not one of the top 10 candidates that the FA said that they spoke to around the England job. Now, he would probably be, in most people's minds, the leading English candidate if you wanted to take an English coach on. That's quite an omission, isn't it? A bit surprising, I would have thought.
I said, didn't I, when we did the emergency pod, when Thomas Tuchel was announced, I said the really surprising thing was that Eddie Howe wasn't even sounded out, and he confirmed that in his press conference on Friday. It's really, really surprising because for the English pathway in terms of the coaching setup in St George's Park, if you are not sounding out or interviewing or talking to the outstanding English candidate, which is Eddie Howe, then what's the point, And I'm not moaning and I'm not groaning that Thomas Tuchel, foreign manager, is now the England manager. He's a fantastic coach with a great record, and I hope he does incredibly well. And I'm not knocking the appointment at all. But what I'm saying is that if you're not speaking to the outstanding English candidate, what's the point?
It seemed very odd, particularly as they said they spoke to 10 people.
Why did they say that? Why on earth would you come out and say we spoke to at least 10 people? Just say we spoke to several or a few, or we spoke to a number of candidates. Why do you have to say 10? Because you know what it's like in our country. The press are going to try and
Find out
down
who
the
the other
10.
9 are.
Yeah.
Who the other 9 are.
Exactly.
Well, we know Eddie Howe wasn't one of them. So, But, I mean, Eddie intimated that he wasn't interested in the England job. But any coach in a role will always say that regardless, won't they? It's a different thing once you actually are.
If a manager's in a job, he can hardly come out and say, yes, I'm interested in it.
Yeah.
The sensible, or the only thing you can say is, no, I've got a job to do here and I'm not interested. So the only way you'd find out is by sounding him out. And so it's amazing they didn't. Anyway, it's good news for Newcastle.
Yeah, you'll be happy, and it's good news for Thomas Tuchel. Hopefully, we'll wish him well. Well, that's all for today's episode of The Rest Is Football. We'll be back on Wednesday with our Q&A episode. Thank you for continuing to send in your questions. Do keep them coming. Have a great week, everyone. Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.